Shall we begin?
Hello, friends, and welcome back to the More Than Just Keto podcast. This is episode number 22. I am one of your hosts, Ashley.
I'm your other host, Molly, and this is part 2, Worthy Then, Worthy Now. Last week we talked about, Ashley and I both talked about and shared our own personal journey as far as when we got to the place where we realized we did not see ourselves as worthy. We have two completely different stories, but it's the same idea. It's the same idea.
It really is.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. And we're going to talk about that more today. We're going to dive into it deeper because what we talked about last week was how we did not feel worthy then. Yet we were, but we didn't know it. We didn't realize it. And so today we're going to talk about how we handled the feeling of not feeling worthy, how we treated ourselves, how we took care of ourselves, or in my case, did not take care of ourselves. Like, what we're going to share is what we did that reflected how we felt. We're going to get into our own stories again to share with you about that. And I guess, do you want to start, Ashley?
The whole point of sharing this part of it is that if you're starting to do some self-reflection and you're starting to, you've decided you're on this journey, and we always talk about mental health and how we put the pieces together and how we solve some of the issues that we didn't even know we had. This falls in line with, you may not even know you're feeling this way, or maybe you do, and everything that either one of us has shared really strikes a chord with you. This is kind of like how we got to the point of, oh, wow, there is an actual issue here. And when we reflect back on it, what it meant and how it played a part in success in our futures and where it stopped us along our way. The whole point with this episode is to kind of say, okay, you may self-identify with what's going on, or you may recognize something different that you're doing that Molly and I didn't do. And you're going to say, well, now what do you do? Just simply figuring out what the problem is isn't enough, right? How do you take that and turn it into something that you can actually make a plan from and maybe make adjustments from? And how do you start recognizing when you fall back into that bad behavior or that negative self behavior that, somehow dictates what you think your worth is?
Yeah, because our hope is that when you listened last week, or our hope is that when you listen to the last episode, you might have related with something Ashley said, or you might have related with something I said. But no matter what, our hope is that you self-reflect. That's always our hope, because we're all about self-reflection, because you can't really grow or change until you actually get serious with yourself, until you get honest with yourself. And so if you don't, like Ashley talked about, how she didn't even realize that she felt that way until she reflected. Tell them about that, Ashley.
Yeah. So, in the last episode, I talked about how I was very opposite in Molly. Molly, we really have understood, wanted to kind of shrink away, didn't want to be seen.
Right.
I didn't have that luxury. I worked in the public. I'm around people all day. It is definitely part of my job to be the face, if you will, right? To be this symbol of our team and the leader and all of these things. So being in the public was something that I had to do even if I didn't want to do it. And I took a lot of time to get ready, and I put a lot of value in how I looked. And I was even in a place where I wouldn't want to go to the store without looking a certain way. I wouldn't even run to pick up laundry detergent without having makeup on or being dressed a certain way. I didn't want to be seen by anyone else, maybe that I knew, without looking a certain way. And I joked that it was like my armor, that it was I always used to say this at work. I used to say, I got my war paint on. Like I'm ready to, do the things because I'm wearing the makeup and I've got the hair and all the stuff. Somewhere along the way, though, what I don't think I realized, and I didn't actually realize this until I started doing this type of like reflection work on myself and my situations and my past, I think that I didn't realize the power that the people around me telling me that my hair was nice, that my makeup was pretty, that my face was pretty. That was something that was said to me over and over again, very specific about, oh, your face is so pretty. Oh, your makeup looks so pretty. Your hair is pretty. And I think I began at some point to really believe that those were the only things about me that were good, that other people saw my worth in those things.
Right.
And so I think subconsciously I started saying, well, I can't leave the house without these things now.
Mm.
That's what everybody's looking at. Or and Molly and I talked about this today. It's like, well, if you're so busy looking at that, then you won't look at the rest of me, or you
Yeah.
won't notice the rest of me that I don't like, because we're all just looking at this. Because this is like, as groomed and pretty and whatever as I can get it. So you're not going to look, you'll just avoid the rest of it. And I think somewhere along the line, I subconsciously was being ruled by that thought, that because my makeup was good and my hair was good, that was all I had to offer.
Mm.
That was where my self-worth was. And it was never something that I realized.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, yeah, I'm good at doing makeup, or yeah, I'm just like good at doing hair. But when I really look back, that's why the extreme of not being able to go to the store, or not being able to do things because I looked a certain way, or not being able to go out to grab food, or I mean, I literally wouldn't do it without looking a certain way. And I've done a lot of self-reflection on that, and I think it's because I tied my worth into what other people thought about me
Yes, that's bottom line.
and
That's it.
what other people perceived me to be.
Yeah.
I was the curvy girl with the pretty hair and pretty makeup.
Yeah.
That was said to me. So in my mind, I just internalized that as, I'm only as good as my hair and makeup. I'm
And
only as good as what my face looks like, because that's all I have to offer.
right.
And I didn't knowingly tell myself that. I just think it was just a little something in the back of my brain. And I felt like I could never go without those things, because I would have nothing to offer. And then
Yeah.
they would be looking at my whole body, maybe, or whatever my fear was, right?
Well, if you think about it, you were going out into the war. Like you were going out and you
Right.
said it, your armor. It was like your
Yeah.
protection. It was
It
your
was my
armor.
protection. You would look at my face and my makeup, and I knew that I can make sure that that was so good that you wouldn't pay attention to anything
And
else.
that's something. That
And
really
I
is
really
deep.
think that and you know what? And we talked about this. That is not a reflection that happened in this last year. We're talking about just in the last couple of months of you and I planning and knowing that we were going to do this episode.
Yeah.
Those are things that I've reflected further on. I dealt with the first episode we talked about what happened, but as far as like really making the deep rooted connections, those are still fairly new. Man, what could I have done with that a year ago?
Yeah.
And that's why we're sharing this.
Yes.
Because maybe
Yes.
you're in that place where this is still new for you, and you have an opportunity now to do this, because you know what? I could have saved myself a lot of heartache.
Yeah.
I could
And
now.
makeup.
And
Just kidding.
makeup, time.
Right.
Obsession is what some people would, like, oh, well, she can't, it's going to take her an hour to get ready because she can't leave the house to go to, to
Yeah.
Walgreens and run in because she doesn't look a certain way. Or,
Wow.
God forbid, they see me, somebody I know sees me, and I run into somebody and like they see what I look like.
Yeah.
Then they'll just be thinking all of me is trash. Like that is like the negative self-talk, right?
And that's what we say to
So
ourselves.
bad. And
Nobody
nobody
would
said
ever
that to me.
call you exactly like.
No, and no one ever
Mm-mm,
would. But
mm-mm.
somehow along the line, hearing all
That's
the
what you're.
positive things, and even so, this is the tricky part, right? All of those are positive things, but yet somehow I internalize those if I have to look a certain way now because people are noticing those things. Like, what if
Expectations.
it, yes, yes,
Oh, there's that word. We'll talk about it more later, but it just hit me
right.
like that's it. You are doing what you feel other people
What
expect of you.
I'm anticipating what other people are going to think and feel about me, and trying to make sure that
Meet
it's
their
there, meet their
expectations.
expectations before they can even say anything,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
So that is like such a weird thing to do. You
I
think
don't
that's
do
so nice that people are complimenting you, and it's not that it's not nice. It's what you do with that information that
that.
matters,
Right,
not
right,
what other
right.
people
You don't know
do.
other people's and
Let me
yeah.
be very clear. It does not matter what anyone says. That's not on you. You are the one that gets to take that information and tell yourself what you want to believe. And I, somewhere along the line, got a messed up message from people trying to be nice. But it did make me feel like people were just saying that was all that was pretty. It was clearly not my body they're ever talking about. It was always my face. It was always my face. It was always
But
my
isn't
face,
it
my makeup, my
interesting
hair.
that now, because you shared this last week, that now they don't
Yeah.
say your face is so pretty, they say you're so pretty. So
Yes.
you now, if if I'm wrong, tell me. I'm
Yeah.
speaking out of turn here. But you now you think of yourself as a full package. So when they
Yeah,
say
I
you're
feel
pretty, you're
like
saying, you, Ashley, you're
right
pretty.
now I don't get those anymore. I can't even remember the last time somebody was like, your face is so pretty. I mean, obviously we're wearing masks a lot of the time, right? But even on social media,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
People just say, "Oh, you're pretty." And I'm like, "Oh, thank
yeah.
you," or whatever. Or and this sounds so conceited, Lord, as I say this. Side note, I'm like, "Why are we talking about my face?" Ugh.
That's hilarious.
Anyway, people don't say that to me now. They do not pick out just one or two things. They'll just be like, "Oh, your hair makeup's really pretty." Um, but they don't say my face. They used to say my face.
That's
And
just
that
it,
always it now it strikes me as weird because I heard it forever. It wasn't weird.
right.
Now
But
that
now
they
it's
don't say
like,
that, they're like,
hmm,
"Oh, yeah,
I bet you never tell anyone, oh, your face is so pretty.
never.
She's got such a pretty face.
Never." I
Nobody
never
wants to,
say that.
hey, nobody wants to hear that. Okay. So stop saying it. If you're
You're safer,
saying it,
Molly.
don't say it. Just say you're
And
pretty.
you know what? People don't mean, and
I know
this
they
is what
don't
I'm
mean it.
saying.
They don't
People
mean it,
don't
but
mean it, and they don't. And but it
but
has
we're
everything to
telling
do with
them.
what you tell yourself. Like,
Right.
you know how you take that. If you are secretly shoving that away and saying, "Okay, make sure your makeup looks this good tomorrow," because you don't want someone to point out a flaw, or
Yeah.
this is a very like obviously
Well,
this
we
seems like
always
a very
take
shallow,
things.
thing, but I don't think like now I went bowling with my family and I wore no makeup and like I wore leggings and like workout gear. Like I would never, when I
And
tell
you
you
didn't
I
feel
would
like trash,
never,
did you?
I felt great. I let my husband take a picture of me.
Yeah, see? And you had no makeup on,
I
but you didn't
right.
feel like trash,
And I
which
did
means you
not feel
weren't
like
trash
trash.
before.
And I had workout clothes on. When I tell you I would not have done that before because I would have been hiding my body or trying to disguise it or make it look a certain way. I would have
Right.
never I would have been like, people are gonna see my full body if I wear leggings and I'm bowling with no like dress on or no like jacket over me or
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hiding, which I
Cardigan,
know,
cardigan, cardigan. Yeah, I know.
yes, cardigan, 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 cover my butt up, my big butt. And I know that you identify with that because hiding was your specialty, right?
Yes, yes. See, okay, so for me, I never went out with makeup. See, again, let's go back a little bit. When I shared last week about my ex relationship and how he spoke to me and how I took everything he said and I started seeing myself the way he spoke about me. So I believed I was ugly. So for me, if I were going to put makeup on myself, my thought was, why would I do that? Why would I waste makeup? What do they say? Don't put, you can't put lipstick on a pig. That I felt like a pig. And I felt like putting lipstick on me was just kind of like covering up to try. And I thought, why even bother? Because it's not going to help. Like, I really, looking back, I didn't know at the time, but looking back, I had very low self esteem, like
Yeah.
very low
No,
self
I get
esteem.
that. Yeah.
And I remember my mom used to say that my eyes changed when I married him. She used to say that. Sorry, I just thought of that just now as I say it. But it's true. I mean, you get a sparkle in your eye,
Yeah.
like you can, that can dull. And that switch was dimmed. Like my eyes were dimmed. I overall just felt terrible. So why would I go through the trouble of trying to make something look better
You
when
don't want
I
to
didn't
draw
think
any
it could?
attention to it.
I
Yeah, because
wanted
you
no
yeah,
attention whatsoever.
want to
Because here's
shrink
the other,
away.
let me dive deeper. Okay. When I was younger, I was always thin. And talk about shallow. Let's get a little shallow. Let me I'm going into the shallow end with you, okay? Okay, so we're just being real here. We're not shallow. We're just giving you the whole story, okay? We're just honest. We're not trying to sugarcoat it or make it sound better. We're just being flat out with you. We're being real. When I was younger in high school, and you see this on the shows, you see this on the movies, I was the homecoming queen. I was the prom queen. Okay. I was
Yeah.
all of those things. And here's this homecoming queen, prom queen, who turned Miss Fatty. Like I turned into what I saw as a very unattractive fat woman. That's how I saw myself.
Yeah.
And how could I? And how could anybody ever see me like that? Because they didn't,
After all of
after
that.
what I
Right.
used to
All
have,
eyes
so
on
to
you.
speak.
After all eyes on
After,
you all the time and always being about your
right.
looks. Yep.
It was about, yes, because you know all that. A lot of it's about your looks, it's about your personality, whatever.
Yep.
But it's still, it does, and they have the joke like in movies. They'll say the prom queen always, or the homecoming queen always ends up being the fat woman or something like that. Like I used to think about stuff like that because I was her, and
Well, you weren't her, but you felt
no, I
like
felt
her
like I
or
was her. You
yep.
know what I mean?
Yep.
But you know what I'm
No,
talking
but
about. They
yes,
depict
I
that
know
in movies.
exactly.
And I
Yep.
don't know if they do that now, but in the 80 movies, and they used to do that. And
Yeah.
so I saw that. I'm like, wow, I did the exact thing that they say that the homecoming queen does. She gets married, pops out a couple kids, and gets fat. Like that's what they say on the movies. That's exactly where I was. So I didn't go to my reunions. I didn't want anybody to see me. I was that uncomfortable with myself. And
Yeah.
the relationship didn't help it at all. Now, I told y'all, I shared with y'all, I lost the weight, got rid of the about 200-pound weight too, which was the ex-husband, remarried, and I was thin. I was thin again. And I felt pretty again. I did. I felt pretty. But then when I gained the weight again, I felt
It took you
ugly.
back to
It
that
took me
place. Yeah.
right back because, like we talked about last week, I'd never healed. It
Yeah.
didn't heal. So this time, when I was overweight, I still didn't dress myself very nicely. I wore very baggy clothes. I did not wear makeup. I went back to that same girl that I was where I
Wanting to hide.
hid.
Yeah.
Yes. So this time, when I did gain the weight back, like I told you, I wasn't in a healthy place. So I did see myself still in an unhealthy light. I still didn't, when I say unhealthy, I mean in my mind, like emotionally, I still felt horrible about myself to the point where I didn't want to shop for myself. I didn't want to buy the clothes. I didn't want to try to look pretty because I didn't think it was possible. But it took a lot of internal work because that's around the time that it was around the time when my dad got sick and my dad, I've shared before, he passed away. And I really took a hard look at myself and how I was living, how I was treating myself, what I was doing with my body. I wasn't quite as bad as I was the first time it happened because the first time I actually got into a state of depression where I wouldn't leave my bed. This time, my life was better. My external life was better. So I had
Yeah.
a
You had more
wonderful
support.
husband. I
Yeah.
had, yes, I had a very successful real estate career. I had like I already just said, a
You had
wonderful
things
husband.
anchoring you to
Absolutely.
stay
It
present.
was a
Yeah.
totally different life. The first time I was in a terrible marriage, I had two wonderful boys who I lived for, and I found my worth there. But this time, I didn't find my worth through anybody else. So I was able to really look at myself. And like I shared last time, I took responsibility for my health and myself. And I started working on myself in the physical and the emotional and the mental, like all of it. And I spent the next couple years doing that. And do you know what happened? I lost the weight. I felt great about myself. I was doing well emotionally, mentally, like everything was great. And then I gained 20 pounds. But guess what? This time, I didn't look at myself as ugly. I didn't look at myself as fat. I didn't think of myself in a negative way. I thought, dang, I put on some weight. I need to
I
lose
mean,
this
and
again.
that's amazing because
Yeah.
and
It
and
had
I know
nothing to do
exactly
with
what
my
you're saying
weight.
because if my weight goes back up again, same thing. I know that that doesn't mean that me as a person
Right.
has less value. That doesn't
Right.
mean that I need to make people just look at my face. That doesn't mean I need to try to distract people from my body because it
Right.
doesn't fit them or what they think is acceptable.
Because you're not trying to live up to anyone else's expectations,
Right.
and you have more realistic expectations, and we're healthy in our
Right.
mindset. And we know that our worth has nothing to do with how we look,
Our size
period.
does not dictate
Our worth,
how, yeah, how much we are worth.
period.
And I used to think it did.
And
And
did
I will
I.
tell you when that changed is when I started losing weight. And there are side effects that come with weight, like loose skin and your body shape changes and things you think you're going to wear or not. And there's a lot of things that come out of that that you are not ready, maybe to even really fully know what that may be like. And I'll tell you what, it made me realize that I can keep chasing whatever dream I want. I can keep thinking in my mind that I'm going to look like this or that. And I'm never going to have it.
Right.
Like, realistically,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna look
You're
the way
not
that I wanted to
22.
look a couple years ago
Right.
in my mind when I set my first fitness goals. That's not gonna
Same.
happen.
Right.
But what I realized is that if I kept chasing that dream and kept coming short, I was never gonna be happy.
Right.
And so that's where this, like, sort of self-reflection is like, well, why does it have to be this certain way? Like, where did this expectation of what I was supposed to look like come from?
I know. I know the answer. Because I feel the same way as you. And I've shared this before. I used to look at the after bodies on these diet or fitness programs and things they sell. They'd have this beautifully perfect six-packed airbrushed body, and then the before where they might have had an extra 20 pounds. And here I am sitting at 40 pounds or more heavier, and I needed, than I wanted to be. And here I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to get that body if I do that program. Why do we think that? But we do, because we're
Yeah.
sold that idea. So then we have that expectation that we can have that body. But then you come to a realization, well, hold on a second. Where did I start? How old am I? Have I had children? How big did I get? I mean, all that matters when you're looking at your endpoint and having that expectation. I truly believe it. It's important that we get a more healthy, realistic expectation. And like you were saying,
Right. And the what I realize is that if you are chasing that perfect body and those are the expectations that you've set for yourself, and then you start to hit these milestones where you're losing weight and you're wait, and I joke that, oh, it looks like I'm melting a little bit here.
oh, I know,
Not exactly, right? I call it puddly,
puddling.
or my legs are a little softer now. My stomach has that little pouch, and it looks great if I've got clothes on. It looks great without clothes on. It's not my favorite. Some parts are my favorite. That
It's
doesn't
just not
matter.
that body that you saw in the
It's
video or the
not the body that
picture.
I wanted, but I realized, okay, this is where the work up here
Yeah.
really kicks in.
Yes.
Because all those things that you thought, all those bad expectations that I set for myself, I realized at some point, oh, honey child, we are not
We got to
getting
get
there.
real. Okay, let's get
That's
real.
not actually realistic. And then it can backfire. I had moments where I was losing weight and I was like, I don't like this.
Mm,
I've had people message me and say, well, I don't want to have loose skin if I lose weight. How did you do? It's like that doesn't exist. If you lose over a certain amount of weight, you are going to have loose skin. If you lose
yeah.
100 pounds, you will have some. Will it be as extreme as some people's? Maybe not. It just depends how your weight is carried.
Yeah.
It's so individual. But what I will tell you is that if you don't start thinking about what if you don't love your body at the end of this the way you think you are, what expectation that is, I have learned to love my body for what it's done for me, not
Yeah.
only what it looks like.
Yes.
It
Got to.
carried me. It
Mm-hmm.
it puts me on the treadmill. I get on the
It does
treadmill and
so
I
much
think to
for us.
myself, you are running.
Yeah.
You are running. One foot is hitting and the other one. There is moments where you are literally in the air. My body did that.
Right.
That's freaking amazing. The fact that you can climb yourself upstairs being 100 pounds heavier, all the things that I could do. I started really taking this inventory of like, Ashley, think about what your body, it kept you alive for this long and has carried
Mm-hmm.
you into this point. It's not going to be perfect. Does that matter?
Right.
The
And you
answer
have to
is no.
decide. Right.
That does
Right.
not matter. What mattered was my mental health being amazing. And that meant taking the right steps to make sure my food was right because my food and my mental health and my body were all one ecosystem.
Yeah.
If we want our body to be right, our head has to be right, and what we put in our mouth has to be right.
Absolutely. You can I hear people say, I'm not really going to focus on my physical health. I'm going to focus on my mental health. And I'm like, dude, that's together.
They
They're
are
like
all
together.
they're a symbiotic
You
relationship,
cannot
right?
put one
Symbiotic,
aside.
symbiotic relationship. They all of those
They work
things to be
together.
healthy. And we talk about this work. I've got guys there that do CrossFit, some of them do bodybuilding, like they are, and we talk about this all the time. The first piece of advice, some of these guys that have been doing this a long time say, it is about health. That means you got to be working on your mental health. That means you
Mm-hmm.
got to work on your physical health, and that means you need to work on your spiritual health.
Yes,
Health.
it
Whatever
all
that
ties
is, all
together.
of those things
Mm-hmm.
create
Mind, body,
waves
spirit.
of change
Yeah. Yeah.
that can last for a lifetime versus a diet that can get you to a goal.
Right. Right. You were mentioning a minute ago about bodies and how amazing, and you were saying about, what yours has done. My 18-year-old and I were having a conversation in the kitchen just a couple days ago because he started running. He loves it. And he said, Mom, isn't it amazing what our bodies can do? And I was like, yes, yes, it is. So that reminded me when you were saying that. And he just started talking about all the different things.
Just having gratitude for just like
Yeah,
it carrying you
just
is something that I never
everything
thought
that it
about. Like I always like,
does.
I hate you, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. I had that
Poor
narrative of
thing,
like,
huh? Your poor
I hate
body's like,
you.
dude,
Yeah. I'm like, I hate my
I've
thighs.
done
You know,
so
I
much
still
for
like,
you.
but that's so true. But we don't,
Yeah,
you know, and we talked about this a little bit last time about, you know, that hate fueling you um so far. We've talked about this in past episodes where, you know, you can use that and turn it into fuel. But there was a long time where I didn't know how to do that. And I just hated what I wanted to change. And I wanted it to look a certain way in my mind. And if I couldn't get there, then it wasn't good enough.
right.
And I don't know, it really took me losing weight, like really having some success to realize that like the way that I had thought that things were going to go down was actually really not even close to reality. Like there were going to be a lot of things in this process that I didn't like more than you know what I mean? It's like getting to your goal and like thinking that it's going to be perfect. Like I didn't realize that actually there may be more things you don't like about your body now.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, there's certainly more imperfections, I would say now than even being heavier. The
Listen,
skin and the, you know, the body shape changing. I wasn't really prepared that I would lose curves here and there. Like, you know what I mean? Some people are
yeah.
like, well, how did you keep this or that? And you know, you can't target certain
No,
areas. You
you
can build
cannot.
muscle, but the weight is going to come off of you the way it's, you know,
Absolutely.
going to come
But you know
off.
what's great is now here let's say some positive things real quick because I'm just going to share it happened tonight. I was blow drying my hair and I had on a different shirt. Anyway, y'all can't see it, but so when I came around, I saw this my side and I didn't see this side fat that I've had for so long. So my body, we talked about our body shapes, like my body carries a lot of fat in the back and the sides, like at the top, whereas Ashley is more pear shaped. So hers is her
Yeah. So a
thighs.
lot of my weight is in my thighs
Right.
and
So
butt
we're like
and,
the
you know, legs.
opposite with
Yeah.
where we really, have maybe the more
Yeah.
fat to get away.
Yep.
Um, so when I noticed that tonight when I was blow dry, I was like, oh my gosh, look at that. And that is okay to get excited when you
Oh,
see.
well, of
And that's what
course.
I was thinking too. I was like, isn't that something that took a long time to see some difference there because there's some parts of my body that I notice quicker than other parts. And then all of a sudden you notice something and go, oh wow, it's a little smaller than it used to be. But it is funny
Yeah,
how
for
it shifts and
sure.
changes. And let's
For
go even
sure.
deeper here. The belly. So my belly has moved around. Like as the fat has gone away, it's like one side maybe hangs a little lower than the other.
There's
It's
a lot
so
of weird things
bizarre.
that happen, you know? Like, I definitely thought that my body was gonna look a certain way, and I was worried about certain areas that, like, just like, you know, when you've had a baby and you usually have like that little pouch. Well, now that's turning into this like little scrunch of skin,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
way below
That just kind of
my
goes
belly button.
boop.
And it's
Yeah.
just like it was a pouch before, and
Right.
now
And
it's like
now
a
it's kind of,
deflated balloon.
yes, same. I have that
It's
too.
it's really like it before it was like a little pouch and
Yeah.
now it's literally just like just a gather of skin. Like
That
there's not even a pouch there. It's pretty flat, but like
mine does this and it kind of hangs.
so
So
I
it's
had
like
that until I really lost like the last like maybe 20 pounds. I still have like a tiny bit,
I
but
have it
like
on the right
overall,
side, but not on the left side. That's what I'm saying about the shifting of the fat. It's
there's
like, this is so bizarre. And clothes can
yeah.
fit you different. Like a pair of pants that fit you fine before that skin dropped. Maybe they're a little
Yeah, I mean there's a lot
snugger.
of
Yeah.
shifting and settling
Yeah,
like my
shifting.
legs when
And I
I
don't think we realize that when we're losing weight. I think we
no,
just
I
think we're
did
just going to lose the
not.
weight and it's just going to shrink, shrink, shrink
Yeah,
and become a smaller version of what we are. When the reality
it's
is,
not.
it's not like that. And let's
And
add in
yeah.
the age. Like I'm almost 50. So like I'm noticing things as I'm losing weight. Like when it comes to like the
Oh
skin
yeah.
because the
Yeah.
elasticity changes. So like
Yeah.
I've got this. Remember I talked about when I first saw my double chin when I was in my early 20s and I was like, what is that? Well, now I see that gobble gobble. I'm like, what is that? Like I'm getting
I mean,
older,
all of
but
that, all of
I'm embracing it rather than getting all this like I shouldn't have that. Yes, I should. Why not? And it's okay. It doesn't mean
yeah.
it's bad and it doesn't mean it's ugly. It's just part of my body's
Yeah.
changes.
And the biggest thing I've learned here is that it's fine. It is totally fine to like imagine what you want to look like. There's
Right.
nothing wrong. If that motivates you, like if you are thinking to yourself, well, yeah, but Ashley, like I've thought about myself in this bikini, like what I want to look like. This is how I've gotten this far. Keep doing it. what I'm saying is that it's also okay for that to change. It's
Yeah.
okay. It's okay for you to have wake up one day and say, you know what? I may not love this when I'm done because I'm going to tell you what, that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
There are parts of myself that I look in the mirror and I'm like, man, I just really wish I looked like this. Or, man, if I just lifted this right here up, man, look how that would look. Or
Yeah. Yeah, we've
the
all done that.
difference is before I would let that dictate my worth or how I felt about myself,
Yeah, if you were good
or I
enough
would
with
say if
that.
it was good enough or
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
And now I look at it and just say that I don't have to love it. I don't have to
Yeah.
love you, little bat wing. I don't have to love you.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
have to
right.
love that the skin on my legs kind of hangs a little bit or
Yeah, you
that
don't
in the
have to
inside
love
of my
it.
thigh. I don't have to love it. But you know what?
Uh-uh.
I don't have to hate it either.
But you don't have to hate it.
I
That's
don't
right.
have to hate it. It's okay to be neutral. And I
Yes,
don't know
neutral.
why.
I love
I don't know.
that.
Yeah, it's okay to be totally neutral. And I don't know why this conversation about our bodies doesn't happen a lot. It doesn't. You don't hear you hear you see people take pictures. You can't see everything because I get a lot
Right.
of comments like, "How do you not have skin?" I'm like, "I do. I just how do you capture that in a picture?" I mean, you can, but like, that's not
Well,
normally what
it's
you're
hard
taking
to see,
pictures
but
of.
you're not. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And, obviously you don't love it, so you may not be advertising it. Some people do share it, and I have shared. There are posts that I have that I have shared, and what I realize is the more comfortable I get, the more I will share those things. Because it is about me working on me.
Do
It
you think
is
it's when
about
the more comfortable you get or the more accepting you get?
well, more comfortable you get with the reality of who you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
The dropping your expectations,
Yeah. Of
accepting where
perfection.
you are,
Right.
right? Accepting where you really are, and then
Yes.
saying,
It's
this holds no
okay.
power over me.
No power over me. Yeah, that's
I
good.
am
That's a good
neutral
way.
about this. I don't love it. I
I
don't
love
hate it. It
neutral.
simply is. And
Let's
that's the,
let's start a
that's
movement. Let's start. Did I already have it? I
I
love the
don't
whole
know.
idea of a neutral. Like they have
Body
this.
movement.
What do they say? They have the body positive movement. They have the body confident or whatever's body comp. What is it?
It
I
should
can't think of
be
the name of
body
it.
neutral movement.
Body neutral movement. Why do we have to love if we? Why do we have to love the yucky parts and why do we have to hate the yucky parts? We don't have to do either. We can just say,
We don't have to do either. It's okay to simply be and just say,
yes,
this is just the way it is. Do I love it?
neutral. We're
No. Do I
team
hate it?
neutral.
No. What happens is when you make something neutral,
It
it
has no
doesn't
power,
have any power,
good
which
or
means
bad.
it
It's
does
neutral.
not control you or rule you or make you feel
Yes,
less than or make you feel
right.
more than. I spent years in this obese body. I spent years abusing myself. There's a price to pay.
Yeah. Oh, that's
It's not
good. That's
for
true.
me, that's how I view it. It's a price to pay. That skin is a price to pay for choices I made that added up over time. And you know what? Would I rather be 100 pounds heavier? Or would I rather have the body that I have now? I'd rather have the body that I have now. I'd rather have the
Yeah.
energy that I have now. I'd rather have the love I have for myself now that doesn't actually have anything to do with the way I look. Because, like I said,
Right.
there's actually a really long list of things that I like less now
Mm-hmm.
than I did before. And that's something that I don't think people really think about when you're thinking about a weight loss journey.
Yeah. And I think what you just said a minute ago made me think of the expectation again. So taking it back to expectations is you said it, you lived in an obese body. I think that goes with an expectation when you lose 100 pounds, the consequences, skin, it's just the way it is. And I think that's an expectation thing. Like if you are very overweight, if you are obese, if you have a body and think about when you have a baby, let's just go with that. So when I had a baby, my skin stretched to hold that baby. Well, when you have a body and you gain weight and you gain 100 extra pounds on your body, your skin stretches. And so when that, just like when the baby goes out and your belly goes back, you have stretch marks, you have hanging skin. Like this is just part of it. And I think that just goes with the expectation, right? Depending on how much weight you have to lose, everybody is different, everybody's elasticity is different and all that. But putting your mind to realistic expectations is definitely going to help in your success mentally. So what Ashley shared about her losing all that weight, she would rather have the loose skin than have the extra 100 pounds. And she's accepted and that her body is What are you looking at? I don't know what to say.
I'm
We need to
thinking.
bring it
I'm
back
just
to expectations and end it because we've been
yeah.
recording for 45 minutes. So I'm saying we're done, but we can like wrap it. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to figure out a way to wrap it up to expectations, but not that. I'm scratching that.
Yeah, I feel
I
like I
think
need
I
to
think the way you were speaking was good, and how you basically were saying that. That's what you were saying, that you were
yeah.
consequence of having, that was about the last thing that was said.
Okay.
So we need
So
to
yeah, the
wrap it up.
consequence of losing that weight for me, I'm just gonna say something until we can find something to start from there. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like I already said all that.
But we're ending it.
I
So we need to,
realize that not everybody's going to have 100 pounds to lose. That's going to look different to everybody. But what I am saying is that maybe the expectation that we set for ourselves, we need to give ourselves some room
yeah.
to understand that it may not be perfect. Some people may only have 20, 30 pounds to lose, and they may get to that point where it is what in their mind is perfect.
Right.
What I do know that
Oh,
is
yeah.
every
Everybody's is
time
different.
everybody's is different. And for me, and I'm just sharing what I went through personally, and I've lost a lot of weight and I haven't lost as much as some people have and will, and they will have even more drastic. Like this is not about comparison. This is
No, no,
not
no, no,
who
no.
won,
No.
the weight loss journey or who has this much to lose, or I don't have to deal with that because I didn't lose that much weight.
We
The
all deal with
reality is
something.
we all have to deal with the mental parts of ourselves regardless if we're on a weight loss journey anyway. We should be
Right,
reflecting and
right,
working on ourselves, right? That's kind of
right.
the point. The weight loss journey is what catapults us to being better people, right? As a whole, right? Like because we have to do all of this health work mentally, physically to make this a lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Because we make this a lifestyle, we're focusing on not just mental health and physical health, but spiritual health, all the things.
Yeah.
And when you're doing that, you're just becoming a better person, regardless of how much weight you
More
lose.
balanced.
Right, a more balanced
Yeah.
person. So, regardless of what happens and how much weight you lose, setting the expectations
So important.
are so important
So
because they
important.
can change so many times.
And sometimes other people and other
Outside influences,
can make us feel as if we can reach that unrealistic
or that we
expectation,
should set them.
or that we should have them. And also comparison, when you're looking at other people and like, oh well, I want to have that, so that's my expectation. Oh, my body's similar to hers, so I expect to have her body. Let me see exactly what she does. Like that's all
Yeah,
things that
all
we
of
got
that
to stop.
comparison,
Yeah,
right, are
yeah.
things that don't really have anything to do with our wellness
Personal,
journey.
right, exactly.
And that's what I'm saying. At the end of the day, you can look at those pictures, you can compare, you can let you can let someone else weigh in on what they think you should do, or you can let someone else tell you what they think you're capable of. You can let someone else tell you your worth.
Mm,
But if you aren't tying your expectations and your worth into what you know,
right,
and working on yourself based on your past, which is exactly what we just talked about, right?
right,
Is saying,
right.
hey, I noticed that a decline in my self worth, this is a marked point for me. That's the whole point of this, right? This was a time where I now realize this was a pivotal moment in what made up my own inner dialogue of
Mm-hmm.
who I was and who and what I was capable of and
Yeah,
what I should be doing. And when we start to dissect that and we start to make expectations based on I want to be healthy, I want to lose weight, maybe I don't want to look exactly like this, maybe saying I'd like to get to a size, I'd like to get to a range. I'd like
right.
when we start having wholesome expectations that are well-rounded but very open to changing,
Mm-hmm.
that's when we start healing our relationship with
Yeah.
ourself and we start obtaining the things that we want.
Yeah. And that's what we're looking. That's the goal, is to heal. Because if we have gained a lot of weight, it is likely that we have a lot of hurt. It is likely that there's a past there that needs to be healed. It is likely that we have a bad relationship with food, with ourselves, with our bodies. So what we're looking to gain here is a healthy outlook altogether.
Right. And that comes from digging into your past. And if you have spent a lot of time overweight, there's usually several years of self inflicted
Yeah.
pain.
Yeah, and
of some
you
sort,
have to
whether
face
it's
it
right,
to
right,
really
yeah,
heal. Otherwise, you're
right,
just going to keep dieting and keep losing
right.
weight and keep gaining weight and keep losing weight and keep gaining weight. That's what you're going to do. That terrible, terrible cycle that I know
It
I've been
is
on
just like a
before.
cycle, like a diet, right?
Yeah,
You are only getting so far in your recovery is kind of like how I think of it, right? You get to a certain place and then you have to start over and over and over again.
yeah.
I
Just jump
get
off.
tired of starting over and over again.
Yeah.
I wanted to find something this last time that would work, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't even know how to go about starting to deal with any of this stuff. And to be honest, in the very beginning, it was just so overwhelming.
Hmm.
You know, getting my food right was the only thing I could focus on. But what happened when I got my food straight was my mind started working a little bit better.
Yeah. So then you were
And
able
that
to
opened
focus
up
more. Yeah.
another door to
Again,
start
where
going through,
it all links
and
together.
it links together. And that's
Yeah.
when I started realizing, wait a minute, okay, if I can achieve these goals in my, with my food and with losing weight, this method can be applied to other things. And that's kind of how it rolls into the next thing. So my biggest thing for anybody listening today that is struggling, or maybe hearing this and they're resonating with what we're saying, or they're like, oh man, I know exactly what this
Yeah.
is like. Really take some time and think about a moment where your worth, or when you decided who you were and what your worth was tied to and how you got to that point. Did you decide that you were worthy? Did
Yeah.
someone else tell you? Really figure that out, and figure out that if losing weight is just going to make you happy, because I thought it was going to make me happy just to lose weight. And I was sadly mistaken that that is not the only thing that I had to work on. It was a
No,
lot
it's just
more than
one.
that.
It's just
It's just
one
one
part.
aspect. And now
Yeah.
the weight loss is almost a side effect of being healthy in my mind
I love
and
that.
in my body.
Yeah.
And I would have never,
You didn't know.
never guessed that would
Yeah,
happen.
you didn't know that that's how it happens. But it does. It all works together. So you've got to work on all of it. That's the lifestyle. And the goal is health. And your worth doesn't come from what anyone tells you your worth is. It is found within you. I said that on the last episode. You decide. That's what I did. I just decided, because my husband now, he couldn't help me to think I was worthy. Like, people could think.
Nobody can gift that to
They
you.
can't. Like, my husband would tell me all the time, oh, you're beautiful, you're beautiful, you're beautiful. But guess what?
It
If
means
I
nothing
didn't
if you
feel
don't
it,
believe
it
it.
didn't matter. Exactly. So you have to find it in yourself. And even if you don't believe it, like we said last episode, you fake it till you make it. You decide, you know what? I am worthy. I'm worth it. I'm worth it. And then you
Your
do
family
something
is worth
about
it.
it.
You are worth it. Everyone around you is worth it. Your whole life is worth fighting for. And if
Right.
you can look back and just make one small step, if you can just identify where things got a little messed up, or where things got a little off, or where your perception of yourself changed, and you can start there and start making a small effort to
It will build.
right that mindset. And that can be as something as simple as, like we said, as you stand in the mirror and you look at yourself and you say, I'm going to pick out one thing I like,
Yeah.
or I'm going
Yeah.
to do my hair, my makeup, and I'm going to like the way I look,
Yeah.
or whatever it is. I know that seems so trivial. It is so key. It's vital to healing that relationship with yourself, so that you continue healing your relationship with yourself and food as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's good. Well, that's great. Ashley, this was a good episode. I'm sad that it's over. Like,
Me
can we do
too.
3 parts? Just
Well,
kidding.
we have a whole second season. Maybe we can come back
Yeah, I love this
to it.
subject. This topic needs to be discussed even more. And I love my favorite takeaway. I can have a takeaway, right?
Of
My
course,
favorite takeaway is the whole neutral. Like, our look at
the
our bodies
neutral
in a
body
neutral.
movement.
Yes, I
You don't
love
have
it.
to love it. You don't have
Don't
to
have to
hate it.
hate it. That's it. So we thank y'all so much for joining us. We hope y'all enjoyed this episode as much as we enjoyed putting it together. And we are going to see you on the next episode.
Thanks for joining, guys. We love you as always. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for joining us today. You can find and connect with us over on Instagram at More Than Just Keto. Don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss out on the fun. We'll see you next time.